So this week's Torah portion is dedicated to my brothers and sisters, and it's all about the Ultra-Orthodox community in Israel and serving in the military. Yes, this is the second Torah portion in a row that we're going to be a little bit controversial. So we say in this week's Torah portion, after last week we counted the Israelites. This week we are counting the Levites, all those that do the Kohen's work. And the first verse is almost prophetic. It's very interesting. The first verse, we are told, Hashem speaks to Moses, as always, take a census of the sons of Gershon, as well according to their father's household, according to their families. From 30 years of age up until age of 50, you shall count them, everyone who comes to join the legion to perform work in the tent of meeting. When you read this in the English translation, you think to yourself, okay, that just like we have the Israelites and we need to count them so we know who goes to the army, right? We had an army back then. So in this week's Torah portion, we're told about the work that the Levites do because they don't serve in the military, and there's a parallel today about Ultra-Orthodox community and the Levites and so on, even though that's not true. But then in Hebrew, it's fascinating. In Hebrew we read, why do you need to count them? Litzboa tzava la'avod avoda be'ol moed, so that you may create an army that will work in Oil Moed. Now, one could argue if the Torah is eternal, it's quite serendipitous that it chooses the verbs litzvoa tzava to create an army. Perhaps the Torah wants to teach us something about a future in which even those that study Torah are going to all have to come to this unified plan where we all get along and we all, take the burden and come to some agreement. And a strengthening of this argument is this word tzava. Where does it come from? How do we know that the tzava, the army, can not only be referring to the Levites or those studying Torah or doing the holy work? Because where do we hear the word tzava? In Numbers, in Shmot, we are told about the marot sovot, the mirrors which were created to make the base and the sink. And why would they call them marot sovot? Because all the women would preen themselves in Egypt and they'd make themselves look pretty so that the husbands coming home after a hard day of avodat parach, of working hard in the fields for Pharaoh, would then, have a lust for their wives. And as a result, what are we told? There would be a tzava gadol. Both Rashi and Nachmanides say this, there'd be a huge army. The emphasis on an army created by all the population of Israel. Now, this isn't my Dvar Torah. I'm not smart enough to come up with a Dvar Torah like this. My hope is that there will be a rabbi in the Ultra-Orthodox community that will come up with a Dvar Torah along the lines of this to try and perhaps, lead us to where we need to go. Thoughts on the Torah portion? Shabbat Shalom.